and welcome to Every Day is Saturday, and I'm your host, Paul Gebhardt, with my guest today, Brad GOTTO of Fiat Wealth Management. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thank you.
It's good to see you again, man. Good to see you. We've had some really good conversations, and you know, you're kind of you're like a chip off the old block, I should say, because you remind me of me when I was probably 20 so years younger.
I'm going to take that as a compliment. I don't know if it was.
Well, I like me, and if I don't like me, who am I going to like, right? Yeah. No, I mean that in the most sincerest of ways. You're just an incredible young man, and you've got such a passion for people, and that's the very first thing that I look for.
Yeah.
In anything I do.
I appreciate it.
Yep, and it matters. So, and I know you're a big family guy, too.
Yeah.
Right? A wife, 2 kids, 2 boys, right?
Well, big family's relative. I only have 2 kids.
Okay, that's a big family. From a dad perspective,
yeah.
2's a lot.
I always joke to say I just didn't play zone defense well in high school, so I stuck man-to-man.
Yeah, totally.
2 on 2 in my house.
Yeah, totally good. I call it big family because I remember the first time I had a true appreciation for what my wife does. I gave her a day when the kids were little, and it was one day with me and the kids by myself, 2 of them. And I went to the park, and I'm going to tell you what, by noon, I was trying to figure out, I don't know how I'm going to get through the rest of the day. Yeah. That's where I was, Brad. So right away.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, you get an appreciation right away, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And when my wife isn't raising my boys, she's a neonatal nurse at the Children's Hospital in town. So she's kind of a double rock star.
So she's definitely got a special heart, that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love nurses. Nurses are my faves. Okay, I gotta run something by you. I know we can talk fun stuff, but we're going to talk now funner stuff. Your firm meets a lot of folks. You meet with a lot of people. What's the number one mistake you see people making?
It's a good question, and I think there's a lot of things that I could point out, but your question specifically was the number one thing or the biggest thing. It's that they do the exact same thing in retirement that they did to get to retirement. And so when you think about different stages of life, we use the mountain climbing analogy all the time of climbing a mountain versus descending a mountain. Most of my industry, you know, if they've worked with financial advisors over the years, and most of the people we meet have, you know, we meet the do-it-yourselfers as well, and they're great people, typically very smart. A lot of engineers are do-it-yourselfers.
Yeah.
But my industry focuses on helping people climb the mountain. In other words, they just help you save money. And they build portfolios that, you know, they think are going to grow the best over time and that kind of stuff. And that's awesome. But then they get to retirement and they do all the exact same things that they've been doing to climb the mountain, to get back down the mountain. And that's the biggest mistake we see. Because when you think about anything in life where you turn around and go the opposite direction, usually you got to do things differently.
True.
And so there's a lot that goes into that. I mean, we could spend show after show going over, okay, Brad, if I'm going to descend the mountain and I'm not a mountain climber anymore, what are the specific things that I need to be doing differently than I was doing on my way up? To name a few, as an example, growth-minded portfolios versus distribution-minded portfolios. We see it all the time. People come in, we review, and their portfolio is awesome if they're in growth mode. You know, and I expect them to be. Most advisors know what they're doing when it comes to building portfolios. I mean, that's primarily what people think of when they think of an advisor.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
This is the guy that builds the portfolio and chases a rate of return.
Yeah, creates wealth, right?
Right, exactly. Well, the client creates the wealth. You just try to help grow it.
Good point.
Yeah.
Very good point.
The client does all the hard work.
There you go. Look at that.
I joke with the people that walk in my door all the time and say, you're already rich. You don't need my help getting there. Now you need help or guidance figuring out how in the world to spend that pile of money. And I know some of the people are sitting out there, Paul, they're like, I'm not rich. By the world standard, 7 billion people on this planet, yes, you are.
That's good stuff.
And so but as an example, a distribution-minded portfolio is just mindful of the things that are necessary in retirement. I got to spend this money. And so I can't have it be in a portfolio that's flying all over the place, good or bad, while I'm trying to spend it. It's got to turn into a paycheck for me.
Yep.
There's no I to taxes. It's just a distribution plan, if there even is one. Quite frankly, most people don't spend their money, Paul, but that's a whole other issue maybe for a whole different show. But the tax thing is a really big one because most people have this massive kind of ticking time bomb sitting in their in their retirement savings, and that is the fact that the vast majority of their money is in a bucket that they've never paid the IRS off on yet. They've never paid the tax bill. 401k money, IRA money, 403Bs, 457 plans. I think you get the point. It's money that we call pre-tax. The biggest misnomer that I see for people is they think tax deferral means you get out of taxes. It does not.
Right. It just means it's coming due later is what it means,
It just means you kicked the can down the road.
Yeah.
And that could have been an excellent decision.
Sure.
It could be a terrible decision.
Right.
But the end of that story is you have to pay that tax bill. There's no getting out of that tax bill.
Yeah.
Well, there is. It's a felony, but that's never gonna be advice from our firm.
Yeah.
So if you want to stay legal, you're gonna have to pay the bill. And the goofiest part about that is the bill's unknown.
Right.
Right? When you stop and think about your tax bill, if you pulled it today, if you pulled $100 out of your IRA today, or you pulled out $100 next year, or you pulled out $100 5 years from now, the associated bill on that $100 distribution is going to be different every single time. Because the IRS isn't, unfortunately, like a nice fixed rate mortgage where you just know what you owe, you know what the rate is. It's just a very simple, kind of lockstep. I know by the end of this exactly what I'm going to have paid. With the IRS, it's just this big unknown. I've got this pile of money, whatever this pile of money is. I know I owe taxes on it. I just don't know how much.
Right.
And I don't know when I'm supposed to pay them off. I always think of furniture stores.
Oh, really?
Because they're always the ones that do those 0 payments for 2 years, no money down, all the stuff. You go get a couch and not have to pay for it for 2 years.
Yeah.
But then at the end of it, you got to pay it off.
You got to pay it.
The IRS does the same thing. You retire, hey, you don't have to pay the bill. You don't have to do that today, right? We'll let you defer the bill down the line. But eventually, just like the furniture store, they come calling.
Yep.
And at your magical age of 72, there's these things called required minimum distributions, and that's just the IRS, like the furniture store, going, okay, now you got to start making payments.
Right.
Now you have to pay me off.
What a great analogy you're
And the goofy part is if you don't pay all the bill in your lifetime, that bill gets to pass to your kids or to your grandkids at whatever their tax rates are, not what your tax rates are. And if you think about it, Paul, if you're the average person, you die at 85, 90, 95 years old. How old are your kids?
Right.
At the highest earning years of their careers.
It's exactly right.
At a higher tax rate than mom and dad, typically.
I understand you have a special offer for the viewer today if they reach out.
We do. So we love education, and we love trying to answer some of these questions. Things like, should I be paying my taxes right now versus later? Do I have a distribution-minded portfolio versus a growth-minded portfolio? And ultimately, what all that boils down to is how do I spend my money? That's exactly what I saved it for. So we've set aside a handful of times over the next couple of weeks for a complimentary visit in our office just to begin that conversation. So if you call the number on the screen, 844-726-9116, we can get that set up.
Fantastic stuff. Again, limited availability. So pick up the phone, call this young man, get to know him. More importantly, let him get to know you because he's a pretty amazing dude. 844-726-9116. We got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back after these messages. Stay with us, folks.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403Bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to Every Day is Saturday, and I'm your host, Paul Gebhardt, with my good buddy here, Brad GOTTO. Fiat Wealth Management. Doing great over there, right? Yeah. These guys, I tell you what, I got to, my mind is going like 1,000 miles an hour right now, if you can't tell. I've got to really get this part of the tax thing, because I'm trying to think on behalf of the viewer, and to be honest, a lot of folks, a lot of us feel like our tax obligation is our tax obligation, Brad. And, you know, we don't want to take on the IRS. We don't really understand maybe there are a lot of options available. But according to you, there are some options available to people out there, right?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think it's a big misconception that at the end of the year, you just kind of get your documents in order, you get in line, and you file that invoice with the IRS that we call your tax return or your 1040 or whatever language you want to use. Mm-hmm. And in your working years, that's kind of true. You don't have a ton of wiggle room on how things work out. I mean, other than working through some deductions and exemptions that you might be taking advantage of or things like that. But in retirement, you essentially, your whole paycheck got handed to you day one, and because you have this whole pile of money, whatever that is, and then you have to distribute it back to yourself over time. Mm-hmm. And if you're like most people, the majority of that pile is sitting in a bucket that you've never paid the IRS yet. It's a pre-tax bucket, the IRA money, the 401k money. And the reason the majority of Americans have the majority of their money there is because that's what they were told to do. Mm-hmm. And I get it. You can't miss out on a match, right? If you got a match on your 401k or something to that effect, you have to do that's free money. You can't not get free money, right? The lucky people that still have pensions, that's all pre-tax money, right? So you get to retirement and you're tasked with this idea of taking this pile and turning it into a paycheck that's supposed to last for the next 10, 20, 30 years. The interesting part is the only time people pull, at least in my experience, the only time people pull money out of their accounts is when they need it to spend it. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things we want to look at, Paul, is, well, the IRS will let you pay them off now if you want to. You could, I'm not saying do this, okay? You could, if you had $1 million IRA, take the entire thing out today, right now, and pay the entire bill and just be done with it. Now, you and I both know if you did that, that's going to step you up to those top tax rates, and you're going to lose quite a bit of it. Mm-hmm. Now, what's interesting is, top tax rates are in the mid-30s these days. Still pretty good. Still pretty good. Yeah. We've only been paying ordinary income tax in this country for 108 years, and we've had a lot higher top tax rates than we deal with today. Mm-hmm. Yeah. From 1944, I believe, coming out of World War II, all the way through the 70s, before Reagan got into office in the 80s, the top tax rate fluctuated between 94% and 70%.
94% tax rate?
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, that one's kind of painful.
Oh,
I probably just wouldn't work.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard to fathom. You mentioned the Ronald Reagan thing, and there's like a little bit of a story behind it, I think. I used to know the story, but...
well, he obviously, when he got into office, he there was act after act after act to bring taxes down.
Right.
And they got the top tax rate down to 28%. Mm-hmm. And then when that happened, Congress promised we'll never have to go above 28% ever again.
Really?
Yeah.
That was a promise.
Lasted 3 years.
Yeah, go for it.
And here we sit. But we're still at cheap rates. The bottom line is you have the ability, if you want to pull your IRA money out, your 401k money out as you see fit to pay the tax bill. Again, the big disconnect for most people is, well, if I pull it out, I don't need it, Brad.
Yeah.
I don't, I got my paycheck taken care of over here. Well, income doesn't mean spend.
Right.
Right? So just because it's counted as income to you, the year that you pull it out, doesn't mean you have to spend it. In fact, you can resave the money in a different tax bucket that's now after taxes. I call it off the grid money. And from that point forward, it can grow tax-free or at a preferential tax rate. But either way, it's better than sitting in a bucket where, as it grows, not only does the amount that you have today, you owe ordinary income taxes on all of it, but you're also going to owe ordinary income taxes on all the growth as it sits in that pile or in that bucket as you continue to defer it. So figuring out when is the best time to pay your tax bill in retirement is really important. Then you start getting into complexities like, well, we get this question all the time. Brad, is my Social Security taxed? Depends. For some people it is, and for some people it isn't. There is the availability or possibility to get your Social Security taxed free. Then you get to 65 and you get Medicare, and that's awesome. It's great. But your Medicare premiums are determined by your income in retirement.
Right.
And so there's certain piles of money that are considered income. When you pull $1 out, that counts as income on that invoice to the IRS at the end of the year, that 1040 or that W or your tax return.
Right.
There's other piles of money that you can pull $1 out, and it's not considered income in retirement. It doesn't hit your 1040 the same way that an IRA would or that a 401k would. And so finding ways to position your assets to be as efficient as possible in retirement can make a massive difference to your overall outcomes. In fact, Paul, the two largest expenses for retirees today, healthcare and taxes.
Yes, absolutely.
And you do have flexibility. That's the important point, to tie a bow on that.
Yeah. No, I like that. So basically what you're suggesting is take an active role and meet with an advisor.
Yeah.
You're willing to sit down with them
Yeah.
and help them build a tax strategy.
Yeah, if your advisor's not talking to you about taxes, you're just missing an area that you should be discussing.
Yeah.
Another prime example of that, Paul, would be, I meet people that have IRA money, and then they also have maybe some after-tax money, and maybe they do have Roth IRA money or some tax-free type money. And then when you look at it from a distribution perspective, we're all diversified. It's a buzzword in my industry, right?
Right.
We get those 85-page statements in the mail, and we all flip to the same page, the one with the pie chart on it. That's all we care about.
Show me the pictures. Yeah.
Give me the pie chart and tell me if I made money or I lost money.
Sure.
And that's your diversification. Yeah. One of the things we like to talk about is tax diversification. Are you tax diversified? Do you have the right amount of money in each bucket to build an efficient paycheck for yourself in retirement? And then layer on top of that, are you taking risks in the appropriate buckets? Because if you think about it, if I own, riskier investments and less risky investments, which almost everybody does, right? That's your diversification. Shouldn't I be putting my least risky investments in my IRA and then my most risky investments in my Roth IRA? It just seems to me the IRS has set it up in such a way that that's what should happen. Because when you think about it, in my IRA, if I buy something super risky like Bitcoin or Tesla stock or something, we're only doing it, Paul, because we think we're going to make money.
Right, exactly.
Right? Now, we've all picked losers before, but we're buying it because we think it's going to go up in value. Well, if it actually goes up in value, you owe ordinary income taxes on all the growth.
Wow.
Whereas in the Roth IRA, if you try to hit a home run and you're right, you don't owe any taxes.
Yeah.
And so you should put your more risky investments over there and your less risky investments in your IRA. Just one of those areas we feel is missed a lot in the planning process.
So again, these are things you're going to talk with the folks when they come in, right? But again, would you share your offer today for the viewer?
Yeah, what we've done is we've set aside a handful of times over the next couple of weeks to meet with an advisor in our firm to basically fill in those gaps. Even if you already have an advisor and they're working with you on the investment side of things, that's awesome. But filling in the gaps on the tax side of things and bringing that into the picture or to the purview, and then that distribution plan. Because at the end of the day, you didn't save that pile of money to have a pile of money. You saved it for a specific purpose or outcome, and we just want to help you define what that is. And so give us a call at 844-726-9116.
Fantastic stuff. Hey, we got to take a short break, but pick up that phone one more time. The number is 844-726-9116. Set up a time to get to meet with Brad. I think you'll be very pleased. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after these short messages. Stay with us.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go? And who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no-obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Hello again, and welcome back to Every Day is Saturday. I'm your host, Paul Gebhardt, with our guest today, Brad GOTTO of Fiat Wealth Management. Again, very informative information. I can tell you, it's got me thinking about a lot of things about my own personal retirement, which I really appreciate. So thank you again, Brad.
So do you want to take advantage of the...
Yeah, so I want to call in right now. Let's turn my cell phone on. I'm just kidding. That's good. How about 8-4? No. What I would want to do is, because we talked about, the taxes and the things that are missed about, the strategy part, right? What is the process like at Fiat when you guys sit down with your clients?
If we get accused of anything, Paul, it's of being really slow. Because at the end of the day, what our end goal is to put a true north to the outcomes that the clients want. I said it before, and I'll say it again because it's worth it, is people don't save a pile of money to have a pile of money.
No.
In fact, if you really think about money, the whole purpose of it is to get to certain things and certain outcomes that you want. And so we spend a lot of time figuring out exactly what it is that you want. And then try to engineer outcomes that meet that. My industry is pretty heavily focused in on, we talked about this, rate of return or specific products that they like or don't like. We just don't start there. And so we have what we call the Get Acquainted visit, which is what we're offering to the viewers today. It's 45 minutes. It's an opportunity to get acquainted, nothing more, nothing less. It's kind of a first date.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a great analogy. I like that.
And so the nice part about any first date is both you and I get to decide if we want a second date. Right. And so in that second date, that's, Paul, where we will give an actual full-blown written analysis of the entire situation, not just your taxes, not just your investments or your income plan, but we're going to look at the entire thing. I don't know when the last time you went and got your oil changed in your car was, Paul.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Good for you. But I don't know if your dealership does what mine does, but they do this whole 121-point inspection.
Yes.
And they look at the entire thing.
Yes.
Most people come to us, Paul, because they want tax advice. Yep. They want, or planning, right? Because when you think about like a CPA, they look backwards. Our job is to look forwards and look at your tax liability this year, next year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and what can we be doing today to minimize your overall tax liability. So that's the primary reason that people come into our office. But again, if I've got the car up on the hoist, I might as well do the inspection on the absolute entire thing. So that's what we do. And so we give an actual written analysis that they get to keep regardless of that third date or not. That's just theirs. Yeah. And we've had people take that analysis back to their current advisors, and they use that as a springboard with their existing relationship, and we're fine with it. Yeah. Again, it's not about us. It's about giving them the education to kind of try to set them on the right path. Yeah. Should they choose to partner with us after that, Paul, then it's a lot of getting to know them. In fact, the next visit after that, Paul, that third date in our office, we set all the numbers aside, which I call hard facts, and we just talk about the soft facts. Who's Paul? What makes you tick? We ask all kinds of questions to kind of understand what money means to you behaviorally, the outcomes that you want, the goals that you have. We even ask questions like, what's been your biggest failure in your life, and how has it defined your decision-making today?
That could be a whole meeting in and of itself.
That's that Chase Lounge we talked about in previous shows. But we take a whole 60 minutes just to go through that. Sometimes that goes long, but we spend a lot of time on that. And then the next visit, it's all just education. So based on all these soft facts that I learned about you in the last visit, the hard facts I know from the first couple of dates, let's start putting together a general sense of where we think things should be going and what's real. What can we do?
Yeah.
Right? And so I think a good analogy here is we're kind of like an architect.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sit down with you, and you're going to define for me, Paul, your dream home.
Yes.
And we're gonna build this thing completely custom. There's nothing about it that's prefab. I'm not bringing in pre-built walls or anything like that. You get to decide how you want the foundation laid out, all the way to the color of shingles you want on the top. And so we spend a ton of time getting to know you so that we can try to give you a set of blueprints that look something like what you want.
Exactly. Blueprint. Love it.
And so that fourth visit is just to kind of define reality. Like if we're going to build a home, here's kind of what's real. We can't build a Dr. Seuss home where the thing's curving over to the side and it doesn't make sense. And so kind of here's the goalposts of what's possible.
Yes.
And try to educate them on, you could do all these things. You can't go out here because that's not possible, but here's all the things you can do. And armed with that information, let's put a set of blueprints together. And so then we get to the blueprints after that. So it's really, we're on usually date number 5 or date number 6 before a set of blueprints even comes out. And even then, Paul, it's collaborative.
Right.
This is not me sliding the blueprints to you and saying, okay, here it is, take it or leave it.
Yeah, it's up
this
to
is
you.
us sitting on the same side of the table, showing you the first set of blueprints we came up with. It's your opportunity to get your red pen out and go, you know what, this is awesome, it's a great start, but I don't think you heard me here. I kind of wanted the fridge over there, right?
Yeah.
And I want a window above my sink in my kitchen,
Right.
and you know what, I decided I don't need my kids to have a bedroom to come sleep in anymore. They're good, they can stay away, so let's do one less bedroom and give us a bigger master. Whatever it is that you decide.
Yeah.
So then we're going to go back and we're going to redraw the blueprints. And sometimes, Paul, that's 4 visits.
Yeah. That's incredible stuff.
We just want to get to the outcome that you want.
Yeah, so it's a total comprehensive, a deep dive into the lives of people's financial life, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I think is powerful. And we're coming to the end of the show. I wish we could continue, Brad. It's been really great. But listen, that's what this is about. It's about you. It's about your plan, your blueprint. That beautiful dream home, that place you want to be, with who you want to be. Brad and his team are offering a completely complimentary visit to help put that together for you. Pick up the phone and call. That's all you have to do. The first action to change your life, to put you on the road to financial peace. 844-726-9116. What does your tomorrow look like? Find out today. Give them a call. Until then, thank you so much for being with us today. And be well, everybody.